Good morning. Just got back from 4 days out on the coast, so I'm kind of dragging, but I wanted to dive in and do some work today. So I pulled up, and if you saw my unboxing, unbucketing, whatever we called it, this Disston saw. She's a rip saw, 5 teeth per inch, made in the USA. It still has the engraving, the etching on it, but it's a mess. And I did a quick test on it, and it cuts like it's a mess. So what I would do is I would sand the piss out of it, wax it up, flatten and set and sharpen the teeth, and go to town. But my neighbor fell for it. He likes, and I want to keep the provenance for him. If I'm going to use a tool, I'm not really that, I probably am going to get yelled at for saying this to y'all, but I don't really care who made it. If it does the job and it does it right, the way I like, go for it. So I wouldn't need to keep that. So since it's for someone else, we're going to take a little care. So I did a few test spots, and this was completely caked in gunk. So I used mineral spirits and a little bit of abrasive, gave it a clean up, and I think I'm just gonna work around it on the rest of it. So I'm gonna take it apart. The handle is cracked, and it's also quite stained. We'll just see what we can do with it. But again, I normally wouldn't care about the label. My bad. After some not so gentle persuasion, we got them out. But let me tell you, these things are shot. They are. I'm happy I was able to save the button, but some of these are just. Now I know where all this wood, the staining on the wood came from. I don't know if it's from whatever rusted them, or if it's from whatever somebody put on it to break the rust. I had to use some PB Blaster on 2 of them. I didn't want to, but that was about the best idea I could come up with, so. Okay, here's where we're at. I kept the, I kept the logo. It's not showing well here, is it? But anyway, we'll get to that. I cleaned it up as best as I could, down to 220 grit. And then here, the pitting is so excessive under the handle that I got the heavy duty beast, and I got all that dug out with that. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a cleanup, and I think I'm going to put a little shellac over it. I don't know if I think it won't hurt. And then we'll move on, take a look at the handle, and then we'll addressing the teeth. But for the age of it, I'm never happy with the saws. I want them to be like new, and they never will be. Oh, it's better. But that's where we're at, and it's been a day's worth of, a full day's worth of on and off, coming in and out of the garage and sanding, and I still want to smooth it out with maybe a 400 grit. So, but yeah, that's where we are. So just as a reminder, this is where we're starting. I'm gonna have to stain this dark to get it to blend back together, because there's not much finish left on it, so the water and the grease and the oil that got in it really got in it. But I'm gonna go to work by hand, and I will bring you back to see the results of my efforts. A little bit of varnish. So here's what we got. I scraped it all down with a razor blade and did a light sand, but I'm gonna try, I have some oxalic acid I'm gonna try on it. But as I was working on it, you can see those splits are worse than they look. So I got my little hypo. I'm gonna try and squeeze a little glue, and I thought I was gonna have to make a jig, but this will fit because these are perpendicular across, parallel. No, these are parallel with the crack and parallel to each other. I'm able to clamp it, and I can see the cracks close up. So I'll do this. You can decide if, I can decide if I'm gonna, you know, when you get to the end and you got to trim down these videos, it's like, they don't need to see that. They know what that is. But okay, in the interest of time, I'm not going to film this, but I'm going to mix up some oxalic acid. I'm going to brush it in a couple times and see if we can lighten some of that up before we do the final stain and sand. The glue worked well. Nothing's separate anymore. It's all together. So I'll bring you back to see the result. So while the oxalic acid is doing its thing, I thought I'd give you a quick, I'm gonna run down and set the teeth. This is a saw set that my brother sent me from Southern Illinois, and this is only the second time I've got to use it. This is a pretty aggressive saw, and it's got quite a bit of set on it. I'm gonna actually probably go light on it. It's meant for, I think, rough ripping fast. And I'm just gonna give you the 10-cent tour. I am not a professional. I just know that when I set it, it'll help it hopefully cut smoother. I should have filmed it when I tested it. I'm going every other tooth by right now. This is 5.5 teeth per inch. I think I said 5 when I first started this. So yeah, when I set, it should cut a lot smoother when I'm all done sharpening. You don't have to set it every time. You'll kind of feel your saw and know when you got to set it. And I don't use it. I won't use it because it's going away. Yeah, some of these are way off. I mean, if I could see how far off it is, that's a sign. Now, again, I know there's 10 different opinions on everything we do in our shop. My dad used to use a hammer. He would lay the saw on a piece of wood, and he would go down and hammer set it. And there is actually a hammer set tool I hear they're being remanufactured. I just saw it on a YouTube video recently, but I don't do it enough to warrant that. So the next thing we're gonna do is make sure all our teeth are even on the top. So we're just gonna take our file and we're just gonna, and all we're looking for is that each tooth, it shouldn't take more than 1 or 2 passes. Yeah, a shiny spot is what we want on the tip of each. Okay, so now I know they're set and they're even. We'll get to sharpening next. Real quick, I mentioned you can do this all in one direction. The reason somebody's gonna not like that is because what that does is pushes all your burr onto one side or the other instead of alternating the burr. You can fix that by just running a soft stone, a sharpening stone, down the side where the burr is, or start using the saw and see if it has a tendency to pull to that side. And then, because after a couple of cuts with the saw, it should take that burr off naturally. But if it's a concern for you, go ahead, do both directions. It's up to you. You cannot sharpen the new saws you get in the box store. If you go buy a handsaw at Lowe's, they're going to be heat treated. And you can't sharpen those. You're just going to ruin your file instead. So we just find our profile And again, it should be 1 or 2 passes. And you'll see, because that flat spot, the shiny spot we put on the top is going to go away. Yep. And we're just going to go down. I'll show you a couple more. I'm sure there's much better. I'm sure there is absolutely much better sharpeners. All we're using here is a cheap triangle file. This one is pretty old, but it's still in really good shape because it doesn't get a lot of use. Anyway, feel free to question my authority and tell me I'm doing it wrong. I'm always up for learning. The buttons for this, the button screws, I'll talk while I'm doing it, are down in my rock tumbler. I have them polishing, and it seems to be doing pretty good getting the rust off. I'll show you those next. They're on their final. If you guys follow West Highland Shop, David, and if you don't, you should be, you know that he just got one of those Harbor Freight tumblers, and I've always wanted one, so I was like, man, I need one now. And luckily, the cheaper one was out of stock right now, so I threw these into my rock tumbler, and it did pretty good at getting out. These were caked. I'm sure I'll have a picture somewhere along this video. But not perfect, but a lot better. These are, I don't know what they're made of. They're non-magnetic. So I cleaned them up. I cleaned out the grooves, and we're just gonna go with it because it's original. This one, you can actually read, it says Disston, USA. And so we're gonna keep this all original. I probably, if I were gonna keep this, I would replace them just for functionality. But these will work. So I spent all this time cleaning the exposed ends, getting a little bit of a shine on them. Because of they're so porous, it's some kind of pop metal, I guess. I don't want to coat them because it won't stick. It won't stay. I gotta stop recording these bigger projects because it's so hard to edit them down to an acceptable length of video. Anyway, this is the handle. It's a lot better, but you can still obviously see. So we're gonna put a darker stain on it. I'm not mad at it because it's just signs of life, you know. That's like every scar and bruise that we end up with. You know, it's just part of our story. Well, this saw sure has a story, so I'm gonna go ahead and get a little color into it, and I think I'm gonna go with a shellac just because, or linseed oil, probably shellac. I don't know. And I'll bring you back to see what it looks like. But here it is now. I find things like tool handles where you're dealing with such, you know, one end grain here and straight grain there are very hard to get an even stain on. And I could have put a preconditioner on it, I guess, but the fact is I didn't. And so we'll see what it comes out. You can see, like, on the end grain here, it's really dark. And that's okay too. I'm not complaining. I ain't complaining. Stop calling me a complainer. Trying to use up the paper towels I got out since I went down that rabbit hole. I figure I might as well get the most use of them I can. So they've been through the ringer today, but okay. And you can, I'll wipe it down here. You can see the darker sections. but I think it's gonna blend out pretty darn nicely. It's gonna have that weathered dark look. I actually prefer that to the light handle that it had. So, okay, I was unsure how to best set this up to show you. So I did a couple of practice swipes, but I want you to see. I'm gonna give it 2 drawbacks. Look at that cut. Look at that curve. Now I want to see, this is more on me, how close I can get. This is saw, but it's also operator. Gosh, what a pleasure. What a pleasure to use a quality tool like that. Well, there's no way to explain that. And I mean, look at that. Look at those cuts. You know, I think I used to want to use my dad's saber saw, and he'd say, not till you know how to use a handsaw. And what a pleasure. I forgot just how nice it is. I have a little cheapo deluxe on the wall for quick cuts, but to use a tool like this that's just been completely overhauled, what did we do? Re-glued the handle, cleaned up a lot of the staining, sealed up all that rust and the pits, dug out the pits in the back, new finish on the handle, went over the blade. I managed to so I'm sure a lot of people will be relieved, but there it is. And even, yeah, the 5.5 teeth per inch mark, I don't know. The stamp on that was pretty light. I didn't even notice it until I started sanding. But, and it's got a nice fresh coat of wax. I'm just wiping off from my handling it while I tested it. Got a little excited at the end there because it took me back to my first go-kart, my first fort, my first raft that I built with a handsaw. And seeing my dad saying, don't use this, use the whole damn saw all the way. 2 of his pet peeves: let the tool do the work, and with a tool like this it will. And don't choke up hammers. Those were things I was just not allowed to do. But I'm getting sidetracked again. I'm going to go ahead and give this a final waxing and contact my friend, neighbor. He prefers hand saws, hand tools. So I think this is going to the right place. So I know this is probably running long, but thanks for sticking around. And all I can say is go get a saw. Bye now. See you next week.